we are going to go to special guest, which is what I alluded to earlier, which is a part of our thing we like to call IRL Esports. And as I mentioned, one of the goals is to highlight the amazing people and events that happen in the esports and competitive gaming scene. Every week, we'll try to feature a different personality in this space. And this time, we got someone who's been around in the esports scene for quite some time. And if you've been in the scene long enough, you've probably seen one of his interviews, tweets, articles, or any content-wise to do with esports. I can't speak. And that is going on in the scene. Please welcome Rod Slasher. And I don't know how to say your last name, Rod.
Breslau, but that was
Breslau.
good. You know, I don't know how to say is equal to Breslau, so you did it perfect.
Okay,
Take
good.
it, Breslau.
Yeah, it's like
Everyone, it's Rod Breslau.
He's
Just
actually
remember.
got that translated that way, so if you just say that, it just says his name.
That makes sense. I get it. First of all, Rod, tell us who you are and, you know, a little bit about yourself more than the quick intro I gave you.
So TLDR is that I've been in esports for over 15 years now. I started as a competitor in Quake, it's a game that I played growing up, and ever since then I've been competing, writing, interviewing, doing talk shows, and just being a general enthusiast to make esports as mainstream as it is now, and I am very happy that I am on a show like this in 2018 because of how far our industry has gone in the last 2 decades.
And by the way, Rod, you have a sportscaster voice like no one else I know.
Yeah,
so
no kidding.
You absolutely are in the right scene.
Yeah, you definitely are. Like, I'm getting chills. Get a couple
It's also
chills.
quite cold in here, but that's probably not to do with
yeah, that's really what's actually happening.
I mean, I don't have the face for it, so as long as I have the voice.
Oh, don't you say that. Don't you say that, Rod. So let's talk about Overwatch League for a minute. Let's get your take. It's obviously a brand new league on the block. Well, brand new probably isn't the right word,
No, it is.
right?
No, I
mean, it's an
think
inaugural season.
Yeah,
Okay.
it is. They're pretty brand new. I think you would say, like, and I see him laughing a little bit, and then when you think about everything that's kind of going on around the players and everything else, so they're currently in their second stage of competition. How do you think the league is doing as a whole right now, being it's only in their first year?
Yeah.
You know, before the league started, I honestly gave Blizzard a lot of flack leading up to the start of the league because I've been involved in Overwatch Esports before Overwatch League was a thing and before they even had the idea to host the show, and I was underwhelmed. As someone who's been in the industry for a long time and also as someone who's played the game at a high level since the closed beta came out, as a competitor myself, I didn't think that Blizzard was exactly handling Overwatch Esports that well. And coming into Overwatch League, I was seriously concerned after selling these spots for $20 million a piece that they were not going to get the viewership needed to make this league a success. And honestly, Blizzard has proved me wrong. And the viewership has been great the entire season. The production is one of the best in all of esports right now, and everything they've done, not including the players who've done their best to try to screw up all the good press around the league.
Oh God, it's true.
Blizzard and the organizations have really done an incredible job so far with the league, and they really have, I think, shut down a lot of the haters coming in, including myself.
Wow.
Well, there
Takes
you go.
a real man to say that, but I appreciate it for sure.
So, I mean, do you think just a lot of the controversy, when we think about why the league has seen so much controversy in the first year, do you think is it the players? Is it the league? I think you think it's the players, yeah?
I mean, yeah, almost every single controversy that we've had so far is a player having extremely inappropriate conversations with underage girls. You've had players making homophobic remarks. You've had players, you know, doing extremely insensitive gestures, facial gestures. So really, it hasn't been too great in terms of what the players have done to bring kind of like the drama to the stage. Of course, this type of drama is in all entertainment industries and in esports, but I do think in Overwatch, it does kind of draw a younger player than some of the other games like Counter-Strike, where the pro players are older because they've been in the scene for much longer. And because the community and Overwatch has a young pro player base, they're more apt to making poor decisions and mistakes like these because they are not used to situations like this.
Totally.
Okay.
Like, I kind of want, like, I know VP is not exactly doing well in CSGO, but I kind of would like the sort of the elder statesman to come alongside these guys to really show what you can do and how you can, like, make that career a career and not have this flash in the pan mentality wherein by some of these things you do on your off time, off LAN, offline, get you in trouble.
Well, it's interesting too, right? Because these players actually have a salary, right? Like they're actually getting paid, like they're making a living regardless of whatever it is. But I mean, just to kind of go a little bit off, like how do you think about like Blizzard's handling of the situation as you've kind of seen this stuff go in there, and like Blizzard's response in terms of, managing these teams and the controversy, around the players?
I think they've actually done a really great job so far in each of the situations. With XQC, with Eco, and then most recently with Dreamcasper, I think they've actually handled it quite well in terms of mitigating the amount of controversy around the situation and acting quickly to try to make everything okay with the fans who are concerned. I will say there are two caveats to these things. One is that there is no players union officially for the Overwatch League, and for all major traditional sports in America, there are always a players union to represent the players. So although, for example, XQC definitely did not help himself in any things that he did, including the homophobic remarks and his chat tryhard spam in Twitch chat. Both things very much not okay to do. At the same time, he does not have a union to back him in this situation to help him in his case.
Right.
He has to personally appeal to Blizzard in terms of fighting this, and there's no way that he would be able to do this. So although XQC did do wrong things, I kind of feel like he was railroaded here, especially considering that the try-hard chat thing, it's an emote that's allowed by Twitch, that's allowed in Twitch chat, and it's, in context, it might not be so bad, but he's not able to get full representation besides his agent to fully go into the situation. I think that did hurt him. The other thing I'll say is that Blizzard's handling of the memes, I am not a fan of at all. I do not think banning Pepe is going to enforce a more diverse or safer space inside of the league.
Yeah.
I understand that, memes have been adopted by the alt-right or certain wings of here in America in a very, interesting climate that we have now in a political, cultural sense here in the U.S., but many people have no idea what that is, and all they know is feels good man, feels bad man, and they associate Pepe with just good vibes in video games. And they actually could have taken an approach here to take back Pepe into the hands of the gamers and to totally disassociate themselves with these groups. Instead, they caved and they kind of look foolish, and I've had fun making fun of them doing this. And I think a lot of the players and people have too. So I don't think that's been a win on their side.
Well, I think this is one of the things too about, when you talk about how Blizzard has just really tried to, like, with the $20 million to basically have a league and everything else, like when you try and legitimize something so quickly, right? Like, I think they're also racing to kind of get ahead of stuff as well. And you're kind of seeing some of the things you're talking about where you're seeing gaps and holes that need to be filled that are just becoming more apparent as this stuff continues to happen. And that's kind of why I asked you the question in terms of what you thought of the response, because I think a lot of people need to understand, like in traditional sports and everything else, where we see some of those gaps, and this stuff is just forcing the issue a lot quicker. I think you would agree with that, yeah?
Yep, I would definitely say so. I mean, of course, Blizzard has to be proactive in terms of their response to a lot of these situations, but on the other hand, you have a company like Valve where they have let a lot of things slip through because of how hands-off their approach is with their games like Dota and Counter-Strike, and that's caused its own problems. But at the same time, their hands-off approach, more so than companies like Riot and Blizzard, has allowed a different type of ecosystem to fester, and some of that is actually good because the esports industry kind of polices itself without the need of the developer publisher to kind of cram everything down people's throats.
Absolutely. Now let's shift gears here. Let's talk about some fun stuff that are most importantly future potential superstars of Overwatch. Who are you watching for? Who do you have your eye on in terms of teams and players?
Personally, I think right now there's a player called Flower in Contenders who was one of the top players on LW Blue, and he was one of the best projectile player, DPS players in Korea. He is not yet 18. I believe he turns 18 in a month or two.
Sounds about right.
And because of that, he is not on an OWL team right now. So the NYXL has the first right he's a restricted free agent, basically. Whenever he turns 18, other teams are allowed to make bids to sign him away from NYXL's academy roster, but NYXL has the first right of refusal to match any offer done by any other team to keep him. So personally, I think he's going to be by far the _1 free agent on the market when the season is over and free agency resumes. That all teams are going to look to start picking up. You know, along that vein, it really is not going to be surprising to me if next season, if Blizzard brings in, let's say, 4 to 6 new franchises.
Yeah.
Which I think is what is expected of them, and you have 12 players per team. If, let's say, they have 4 new franchises, I wouldn't be surprised if that's 48 Korean players.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Coming into the league. And, you know, obviously we've seen this trend in League of Legends, how Korea is the world championship, I think, for the last 4 years. StarCraft has a extremely long history of being the best in the world of that game over almost 2 decades now. And Overwatch, I mean, very quickly, I was one who early on Overwatch Esports was like, no. This is an FPS game. This is like a deathmatch FPS game like Quake or TF2, where all Western players have dominated. This is our scene. This is our time as a North American and European scene to finally show that we are best in the world, and Korea won't do it. And just like Blizzard showed me that OWL is a success, Korea very quickly won all of the Apex tournaments when it really counted in season 3 and 4, and now are completely dominating the Overwatch League right now in places 1, 2, and 3, with NYXL leading the way. So with all of that considered, and how much better the Korean rank system is, and the Korean tier 2 system is, and the Korean tournament, the tier 2 tournament scene out there and contenders is, I believe that the next best players in Overwatch League Season 2 will more than likely come from Korea and the Korean contender scene. It's not to say that there won't be some players from NAEU who can show themselves and become superstars. And I think there's a lot of pressure on people like Sinatra, who had very big public contracts announced before the league started, up to 150K, who really do have to show how good they are because they got those contracts. But I'm feeling 48 Korean players for season 2 coming into WL.
I just like the idea of a possible change of scenery from Korea to potentially Cleveland.
Well, I'm
just guessing too.
I'm also hoping that,
I shouldn't say Cleveland.
With the deal that Philadelphia Fusion just did with the university there in Pennsylvania, that with these feeder schools for coming from colleges, we might see actually some of that stuff get better in the U.S. as well. So let's hope for some. I want some North American representation as well. We got some pride there when it comes to FPSs.
I wouldn't hold your breath.
I know.
But I'm more than welcome to see that for either of you. I don't know about colleges working, and I certainly can't see Cleveland winning ever, even if they got a team in Overwatch League. So you might be waiting a while, Kate.
I love it. That's fair. I'm just saying. Listen, what I really want is an Overwatch team out of Seattle, but I will settle for just an additional couple. It's fine.
Yeah.
I want one out of Seattle.
Maybe we'll do the same thing that we'll just import a Korean team like we did with the Mariners and get the Japanese, baseball team. That would work.
I have no problem with that. I'm fine. I like winning. I wonder what that's like.
We're going to start pooling money here in the studio.
It's fine.
We got, between the group of us, we got about $40. We got a little bit more to raise, but we can do it.
It's true. Actually, we've got a question from the chat here. Slasher, do you think Korea would dominate at Wake Champs? Seems it's still US/EU dominated.
Probably not, just because they don't play the game.
Yeah.
And any game that really isn't going to be big in the region, they're likely not going to win. It's the same reason why Korea doesn't dominate Dota or Counter-Strike. It's because the majority of players there play League of Legends. And in terms of Counter-Strike, they have their own games like Sudden Attack and Crossfire, which they put a lot more effort into. And now they're really into PUBG because it's a Korean developer, and it's now the #1 game in Korean PC bangs. It wouldn't surprise me if Korea is winning every single tournament in PUBG in the next 6 to 12 months.
Well, we'll see.
And now Fortnite is coming out in China, so who knows? I'm sure Asia's going to dominate Fortnite next year. and that'll be the case there.
Well, I guess we'll see in Berlin, right? But because basically PUBG Corp gave them 2 seeds, right? So everybody else got 3, but Korea only got 2, so that'll be super interesting. And, you know, I do have to give a shout-out because Scarlett, who won the Intel Masters,
that's true.
She did beat SOS for StarCraft, but then, you know, in the recent competition, she then lost, and SOS is now
It's true, but I will say that was
But we had one.
That was
North
the
American.
first. She's Canadian. One,
well,
sadly.
still North
but
America.
NA. But I believe that she was also the only person, and also, but I think she was the only non-Korean that beat SOS in his career.
So I'm just saying, like, we have hope. I want to see hope on your face. I want to see hope. There it is right there, a little bit.
Look, I am all about promoting NA Esports. I shaved my head live on stage at BlizzCon when Huck won MLG Orlando.
Yes, that's right.
I said that he was not going to win and that Koreans would win the entire circuit. So I am more than willing to put my own life on the line to see the North Americans win. And actually, really, to be honest, they have done way better in the last 2 years than they ever have. Cloud9 won the first Counter-Strike major in 10 years for North America. The last time was 2006 at CPL Intel WSVG, and I was at that event. And to see how long it has taken for Cloud9 to win a major is a huge thing. Neeb won GSL. The only foreigner to ever win GSL is an American. So there are a lot of players that are, you know, really performing. Punk almost won EVO to be the first American to win Street Fighter. It took a remarkable comeback and performance by Taquito to stop them from happening. So Americans are performing. They are doing well. They are putting up the numbers. It's just, in general, I expect them to lose all of the time.
Well, I mean, hey, I guess that makes it for the best surprises, right, overall, right?
That was the best. Actually, we have one last question here, which is our favorite one. And I'm always curious how to phrase this because it's something that you in the esports scene get all the time, I'm sure, from people who just don't get it, or as my Uber driver called it yesterday, video gamers, and winning things. I don't know. It was a weird conversation. At any rate, my question is what do you tell skeptical people about esports and the competitive gaming scene when they ask you why it's such a big deal? And do you say you should get into it?
It is a good question. Usually, I try to get a feel of like who the person I'm talking to is and what their background is. So if they come from sports, it's a very easy kind of analogy for me to go to, where it's people playing video games for money. That's generally as the line that I go to, which is like an easy way to do it. And then I could say it's just like sports or teams or players or leagues, blah, 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 blah. So that's kind of an easier one. If they come from other backgrounds, like tech is also pretty easy because it's kind of involved. Usually people will know Twitch and there are certain things. When it comes to people that aren't really into sports or not into technology, it does get harder to kind of explain what it is. But I really do think, especially in the last few years with how large the industry has gotten and just how big things that are related to esports, like streaming, and how big social media is, and how big like Twitch and YouTube are, and how big in general video games are, that it has become a lot easier to get into that conversation. I wouldn't say that I push people to like force them, you gotta watch this right now or you're missing out. This is one of those fear of missing out things that you better too or you're gonna regret it. I wouldn't say I go that far, but I do try to, you know, find at least, especially because people have different tastes, I do try to find the one game that would most appeal to them. So if they are into traditional sports, maybe it's sports games, which the esports scenes that they would find out. If they're more into single player games, maybe it's the bigger video games that have more appeal to like single player people, like in Overwatch,
right?
Or
Dota,
you know, kind of the
Splatoon.
Splatoon.
Yeah, that's literally never come out of my mouth to tell people what to do. And then there are other people where I think really fighting games are the very best esport of any single game to get a person who is coming from the outside into this space. It's the easiest to understand. It's the easiest to just look at the screen and get what's going on without having too much explanation. And really, nothing can beat a fighting game in terms of the ease of access to people who want to experience competitive gaming in esports.
But I mean, I think people like, I mean, for instance, like at the TI, I think people like Valve are getting better at getting like mainstream viewers and educating them while they watch. I thought it was really cool that they had that second stream up for people to learn about the game. So we are getting better as an industry to actually teach people. You know, when you have 45 million people watching, you want more to kind of come in and understand what's going on. So
there you go.
Anyway.
That's true.
Slasher, thank you very much. Where can people find you and your work? And do you have any, special shout-outs, or like outside of just this great TV show that I know that you were excited to be on?
Yes, I would too. I was so excited to be here. Thank you guys for having me. Right now, no, I'm just training to be a pro gamer. I'm going to make my comeback into being a professional Overwatch player into Season 2. I'm going to get to the Combine. I've beaten Seagull in a tournament. I've beaten OWL players in a tournament. There's no other journalist in esports that can say that.
Ooh,
so that is my goal.
Dude.
I'm going to be the world's #1 esports consultant and an Overwatch Elite player, and no one can touch that shit.
Wow. And not only they've turned the heat up, so I actually have genuine chills now, and I want to appreciate what. I got nothing.
Well, what's your Twitter handle? Is it @Slasher?
It is Slasher. Well, I'm one of those people who was able to get the original name.
Well, you win all of the prizes, and I hope you win many more things to come. And I say thank you so very, very much for being with us. And you, sir, have a fabulous day and keep grinding.
And there were more than 6, just so you know.
I don't know what you're talking about. I have no idea what your comment means at all. Thank you guys for having me.
Thanks very much. We'll see you later.